this is not the end. I can see a lot of people leaving, but it is not the complete end yet, because before that I will give the floor to the representative of the Wilfried Martens Centre for European Studies, Mr. Federico Ottavio Reho, and I will give him the floor.
Yes. Can you hear me? Yeah? Yes. So, well, I have a modest but welcome task, because it is really the task to pronounce some word of thanks on behalf of the Wilfried Martens Centre for European Studies. So, thank to everyone who made this conference possible, obviously the speakers who shared their insights, all of you who participated and asked questions all in such a lively way. But particularly, of course, special thanks to all our partners in organizing this. So the Czech Bishops Conference, thank you very much. The Ecumenical Council of Churches in the Czech Republic. Aid to the Church in Need. Actually, every time I meet you, Mark, Marcella, I mean, I'm amazed by the work that you do on the ground. The amount of information that we have thanks to your work on the ground is extraordinary. Thank you very much. And last but not least, of course, our partner here in Prague, IKDP, the Institute for Christian Democratic Politics. I think the Martens Centre, you may know us, we are the political foundation of the European People's Party, but we don't do campaign work. We do cultural work. And I think we are one of the very few Brussels-based foundations, perhaps the only one, who still pay attention to problems of religion, religious freedom, who have a specific research strand on religious issues. We do this for a number of reasons, really, some more ideal, some more practical. First of all, of course, we come from a Christian democratic tradition, and therefore this is a way to pay tribute and to keep alive that tradition. But we also have more pragmatic reasons. I mean, this surfaced in some of the discussions that we had today, the impact that this issue of religious freedom has across policy areas. Someone mentioned the implication that this has, for example, for women's rights in many parts of the world, or for access to education. One thing that was not mentioned is the impact that it has on migration, which is very important. If you think that half of the migrants that we get come here for humanitarian reasons, and a big portion, a significant portion of these migrants are persecuted for religious reasons in their countries of origin. So even the migration problem is linked to the problem of religious freedom. And then, of course, I mean, coming from a Christian democratic tradition, we are very well aware that when freedom of religion is under threat, all freedoms somehow are under threat, because behind freedom of religion there is freedom of conscience, and freedom of conscience is the foundation of all freedoms. It's the principle based on which the individual has its own autonomous conscience from political powers, and therefore is endowed with rights of its own. So we are aware that when we see movements in the West and in Europe even, and the conference has highlighted that very beautifully, away from freedom of religion and freedom of conscience, all our freedoms and our free societies are threatened. And for me, one of the most interesting takeaways from the conference was that we have a lot of work to do also in Europe, both at the national level, but I dare say, as someone who is focused a lot on EU politics, European Union politics, also at the EU level, because, I mean, as you know, the EU, the rhetoric of fundamental rights and freedoms at the EU level is very strong. But the impression is that the problem of religious freedom and conscience is increasingly neglected. You know, it's brushed aside. It's no longer treated, despite being in the treaty, in the treaties quite prominently. It's no longer treated with the attention that it would deserve. And so I think one of the takeaways, in my opinion, from this conference is that there is a lot of work to do, both for, you know, reinforcing the attention and the protection of religious freedom in EU internal policies. Some of the episodes, the things that I have heard are quite chilling, actually, in terms of like restrictions that we see on freedom of thought and freedom of speech in some countries within the European Union. And I've never seen these issues, frankly, mentioned in any of the rule of law reports that the European Commission produces. I mean, there are many valuable things there, but this is completely neglected. And of course, there is a whole chapter on promoting and paying attention to the persecution of Christians and other religious groups abroad. I mean, the EU as an external action, there too. I mean, there is a lot of grandstanding on values and principles and human rights, but the rights of persecuted Christians are often brushed aside. So for all these reasons, I think that there are, it is very important to keep having this kind of events. It is very important to bring these issues to the attention of policymakers. It is not as well understood as it should be, and therefore the Martens Centre will continue to support such initiatives to the best of our possibilities. So thank you again to everybody who made it possible.
Thank you very much. No a nemůžeme tuhle konferenci zakončit bez toho, že bychom dali.
And of course, I'd like to give the floor to the spiritual father of this conference, who has started his work in the Vatican recently, and it is a great pleasure and a little miracle that we have him here, Mr. Pavel Svoboda. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you are not expecting me to provide a summary of this conference. The objective of a conference is usually to answer some questions, but I have to say that I have maybe more questions than when I initially arrived to this conference. However, this can be seen as a positive thing as well, because now we have some food for thought for the years to come, and that means to organize other editions of this conference. Since our hosts will probably thank our various partners, I will thank Monika Klimentová, Mr. Daniel Raus for their excellent work in hosting this conference, and it wasn't always an easy task, I must say. So please, an applause to our hosts. And of course, I would like to thank the panelists for their excellent contributions. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Pavel Svoboda. And we'd like to thank our interpreters as well. And we thank you. So thank you, everyone. And if I have forgotten anyone, I apologize. But before ending the conference, I have to say that we will have some brief refreshments, and then we will have a Jewish Christian common prayer, but this won't be the end yet. So at 6 o'clock we will have the prayer, and then at 6:45 we will have a common procession around the buildings that are lit in red around Prague, and in the evening we will have a fundraising concert at the Church of Our Lady of the Snows with the Schola Gregoriana Pragensis concert that will be broadcast live on TV Norway. That's at 8 o'clock, and the proceeds will go to the Jewish children that were touched by the conflict in the Middle East. And you can contribute yourselves to our account at červenastředa.cz. And this is the ending of our 8th international conference, and we thank you, Monika Klimentová and Daniel Raus. Have a nice evening.